Good evening, Elder Dawkins.
Hello, my brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Welcome to Share Your Faith.
Okay, my brother. It's a pleasure joining you and your listeners.
It's a pleasure having you as well, all the way from Nassau, Bahamas.
Yes. Yes, sir.
On Share Your Faith, we invite people to share with us their experience over the years in their Christian walk. But usually we go to the first question is for them to share, if you'd be kind enough to share with us this evening, your early childhood, your teenage, your growing up years. What was it like?
Okay. I think it was very good. I think God has been good to me. I grew up in a home that was Christian based. In fact, the tradition of Adventism in my family has been very strong. My grandfather, in fact, the Boys Content Church in Jamaica was started on the porch of Miss Ivis Henry and Wilfred Henry, which later became the Boys Contents of the Adventist Church. After the passing of Wilfred, and my grandfather, wife also has passed, they married, that is Ivis, which is a solid rock base, what we'd call a pioneer for this region, met my grandfather, and they became the base then that continued the growth of that church. My father, that's Seymour, and a younger brother, sometime later, joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So I grew up with that tradition of Adventism. And Elder, I also had some very good role model. At that time in that region, we have people who used to visit and nurture us, like Noel S. Fraser, who later became president of West Indies Union. We also have Merrimot Ware, who is really my cousin, who was, I think, president of East Jamaica Conference and later became secretary of West Indies Union. Pastor Casey Henry was in fact the son of Ivis Henry. And so we were around people who were solid rock, that I would say, Adventism. And so the faith, I grew up in this rich tradition of what I would call Adventism. It was not only Adventist, Christian people who know God and were willing to share their faith.
So I see that you grew up in a rich Seventh-day Adventist heritage, so to speak. As a young boy growing up, did your colleagues, your age group, did they look at you as strange, being a part of this organization, this faith? How did the community receive you?
Well, we grew up, as it were, in the middle of a cane field, so we did not have many neighbors. So there were 9 of us in our home as children, plus extended family. So basically what we had at that time was just a lot of us together in this family. Our closest neighbor, if we were crying loud, they could not hear us. You know, so there was not many of us were living in the community. So my greatest challenge came, however, I left home at 13. I went to a boarding school. Okay. Opportunity came for me to study. So at 13, I was joined into a boarding school. boarding school, I can say it was Osamati. Osamati was a gift from the people of Cuba to the Jamaican government. And I was one of those pioneer students there. At that time, you know, there was I would call it a Cold War, a kind of distrust between the Cubans and Jamaicans and that kind of thing. So when my community heard that I was going to the Cuban school, that started a firestorm in my family, that they were saying that they were not going to see me again and all of those things. But there I understood that then I had to stand for myself. And I was happy, Elder, that I met there some other young people who were not compromising. I remember we did not have Sabbath off. And they were saying it's a work-study program. So you work for part of the day, you go to school for the other part of the day. And they were saying to us that there were no difference in the days. So on Sabbath, we were put on duties like kitchen duties, corridor duty to wash, and bathroom duties, or farm duties. And the group of us decided as a Seventh-day Adventists that we are not going to work on Sabbath. And I remember they saying to us, if you did not work, you will not eat. And on Sabbath, we did not eat. We first of all, we started just going out under a tree and having worship together. And somehow words reached the ears of, no, there was a student council, and we started petition the student council that we are Seventh-day Adventists, and the rules of our country talks about no discrimination. So they eventually, the administration allows the brethren from the Spanish Town Church, and they agree for 1 hour of worship. And that was between 8 and 9. They would come to us, we meet in a classroom, and we would have worship. And that was wonderful. So when they were gone, we would still continue our little AY under the tree by the riverside, for there was a river that passed behind the school. And that held us together as young people growing up. And until when I was leaving, we were able to go out to church on Sabbath. So, you know, by us standing up, I think that sets a tradition. Well, the school is no longer a boarding school now. It's a full day program. But during those early days, I recognized that my early beginning was very important. And this early beginning, my parents were, when it comes to worship and devotion, Elder, they did not give up on that, you know. And I thank them for that. Then I was growing up, I was saying that, boy, you know, that was rough. We want to get an extra hour in the morning. And
right.
but worship was it. We had worship, and every morning and Friday evening. In fact, we understand that some people were passing by and they used to stop by our gate to just listen to us singing on Friday evening. We did not know that until years after. They used to tell us that they used to stop under a tree, come off their donkeys, and they would sit there on a rock and they would listen to us sing on Friday evening. I said that was a positive testimony. So that was my early grounding in the faith.
Oh, that's tremendous. I know what it is to get up and to spend time worshiping. You grew up in the faith from a rich Seventh-day Adventist heritage. But were you ever tempted at any time to say, wow, this life, this religion, this dedication to Christ is too restrictive. I need to explore the world?
Well, when I went straight from high school, I went into college. That's another story. I don't know if I have time to share that with you. But after graduating from college, and I started to, saying now, maybe I can explore life. I was involved in sports then, was very active in sports coaching and that kind of thing. And where sports was, I was around it, and people of that type. So there were a lot of temptation. But when I went into the new community to work, the person who brought me to the community, he introduced me to a person, and he said that this is so and so, and he is the top man in Adventist in the area. When I turned up to school on Monday morning, guess who I saw there? This man, he was also on the staff. So I recognized that all the things that I had in my head, and I was introduced as an Adventist. So the first Sabbath, I didn't go to church. I stayed at home. So when he came to school the Monday morning, he looked at me and said, I was told that you're an Adventist, aren't you? Do you know where the church is? And he didn't say anything more to me. And, the next Sabbath, the second Sabbath, I didn't go to church. I was at home. And when I reached back to school the Monday morning, he would come to me and say, Dawkins, I thought he said that you were an Adventist. You want me to come and bring you to church? And the next Sabbath, I was in church, and I never stopped going. I went to church. I became, after a while, I was made one of the elders. I was ordained there as an elder, one of the youngest one then at the time. And it was, and I believe that my ministry in that area was really, really positive. And I recognized that I must be a witness. I remember that there was a bar. I was living upstairs and a bar was downstairs. And I remember that I walked into it and I bought a bottle of, I think it was called Dragon Stout. Feel like I was feel that I was a big man now. And I went upstairs, sat in my room, opened the bottle. I take a first sip, and a second, and then I got up and I went to the kitchen sink and poured the whole thing down the sink. And that was my experience trying to be cool with alcoholic drink. And that was it. I never put another bottle. I never tried another bottle like that, but that was it. Your life was challenging. You're growing up, you're active, you look good, so to speak. So you have challenges from, the girls, so to speak. But I recognize that by my responsibility to God, that I have to live the life that count, elder. And I think that what keeps me, my early foundation, and recognize that if I am telling people about Christ, then I need to be living the life, to be that light, to be that salt to the world.
Well, what would you say are the things that keep you grounded in the faith? The things that keep you grounded.
Grounded. One of the things, as I said before,
strong in the faith.
Strong is a supportive family. As I said, that my mother, my father, they were solid rock, and they continue to know that they are praying for you, they are encouraging you. Also, there are some people in the church who, I would say that they believe in you. I could remember every time I returned from school, like for the summer break, by the time I reached the church, there was somebody to give me a hymnal and said, I can't hold a note, but he would say to me, go and lead the song service for Sabbath school. They would have me reading the scripture. in AY, I recognize that, the young people who were there at the time get me involved in what they were doing. And I spent a lot of time searching the Bible for myself as well. I remember there was a time that I was challenged by Galatians when he was talking about the law was our schoolmaster to lead us to Christ. And I had some friends who were saying that you don't need to keep the Sabbath. I remember days after days, I would spend reading Galatians and trying to understand Paul. So from an early age, I tried to understand my faith. And if I am going to tell you about the Sabbath, I must first understand before I can actually try to share it with you. So my early beginnings, my supportive people, spending time with God in terms of reading the Bible. And there were some books that my father would make us read, messages to young people, and Step to Christ, Alone with God. Those three little books, they have some gems of things in them that will encourage you and help to keep you steadfast. And I remember I said that I come from a tradition of people who are very supportive in the Adventist faith as well.
Being a part of the household of faith and an active member like you are could sometimes test your faith. Not only that, there are circumstances in life that sometimes meet us, quote unquote, the wrong way. Is there some point in something that happened in your life that tested your faith to the point that you figure maybe I should just give up?
The test of faith, I believe greatly in prayer, a whole lot. And I tend to spend a lot of time in that. And I believe that whatsoever God has ordained is ordained. And I should, so God never make mistakes. But I often said that there are some things that I have been leading the church for quite a long time. And members of the church sometimes can be very, very difficult. And so that's one of the challenges that sometimes I have. Sometimes you're a leader and you stand for something, you feel as if you are kind of out there alone. Sometimes you go to the board meetings and you're wondering if the ideas that you're sharing, if they are really, and sometimes the brethren will say, we are not for that. And it will be challenging. I have had experiences where I would say this at one time, there was something that was happening. And I was standing inside of the church. The others were on the outside, the windows were closed. And I was engaged in a conversation, but obviously they did not know that I was inside. And my brother, the brethren, had slaughtered me. I didn't understand that so many things were wrong with me and my approach. And they were saying some things. And when I couldn't absorb it anymore, I opened the window and I said, hey, I am right here. And, that was really shocking for them. But yeah, so, but it really, it helped me to realize, Elder, that there were situations in my life that although I have had that experience, that there is a bigger picture, because it led me to self-evaluation. And I recognize that, some of the things that I'm doing or I want to do, we grow at different levels. So the fact that I may have wanted this, I need not to push it on the brethren or compel them to come. I have to, so it means that my leadership style also had to adjust to meet the need of the people that I am with. But I will say this, that I believe that my life was directed by God. And this one positive experience I'm going to share with you now. After I graduated from high school, I had a love for agriculture. So a farm school was opening, like a vocational school. And I was accepted to go to that vocational school. And I was quite happy with that in going. But when I turned up to church on Sabbath morning, one of the elders came to me and said, "You're going to go to college." So I laughed. And I said, "Why? I haven't applied for college, so why am I going to go to college?" And after church, he pulled me aside and said that there's a new college opening. And his daughter went there and they said they don't have any space for female, but they have 3 spaces there for male students, and you're going to be one of them. Sports was at that time was not very central in my mind. Because when they go out on the play field, I was the guy who, when they pick everybody, I'm the filler for the team. So I was not that, good at any particular sport at the time. So he gave me the money and said, "This is your fare to go to the college on Monday, and this is your lunch money." So I went. After I went there, the student affairs director said, "Yes, there is space available." And the fact that the school that I was graduated from is like a sister school to that one, so to speak, but it's also built by the Cubans. She readily gave me the acceptance letter because I met the qualification. But when I look at the fee, I know that nobody in my house, nobody in my family could afford that money. But all of a sudden, something was, open in my heart that, this is where you need to be. This is where you need to be. And to cut it short, to get to the main point, I walk home. I had to walk about 3 miles in the afternoon sun. And all along that way, I put the matter before God and said, "God, if you want me to go to this college, because after I finish that, I could go straight to work rather than doing the vocational school. I would still have to go to college to get the degree." And when I went home, I showed my mother the letter and I told her everything. And she said, "Son, we don't have the money, but you pray." Elder, I went into my room and I lie on my bed and I fell asleep in the warm afternoon sun. And as I slept, it's like somebody came to me and tapped me on the shoulder and wake me up. And it's like he had a scroll in his hand and he unfolded it. And he said to me, "Keble, copy this letter and send it to your college." Elder, I copied the letter, and the next day I went to the post office. I posted the letter. 2 weeks after, I got in those days were what we call telegram from the post office. Take personal belonging for admission to college.
Yes.
I went to college for that first year.
Wow.
Nobody
Amen.
asked me anything about money. I went to college. I enjoy free boarding. I enjoy free the food. I get books. People were just kind to me and I couldn't understand why.
Amen.
During the second year, the student affairs director came to me with a student loan form that she already signed as guarantor. And he said, "I need to sign this." Because what happened the first year, is that when that letter came to the office, the principal decided to share it with the staff. And it's like after they read the letter, everyone was in tears, she said to me. And they've promised that they will allow you to get that education. So I am eternally grateful that God has been directing my life. So when I met upon, you asked me about disappointment and frustration. When I met upon a situation like those, I see them as challenges that God has given to me, and He will give me the overcoming power. So that has always, whenever I go and whatever time I meet upon circumstances, I remember that God wanted me. And you know, Elder, right after I graduate, my daddy met in an accident and he was in the hospital for almost a year. I was, as it were, become the automatic breadwinner for the family, just on time. So, I recognize that God is no fool. God directed the affairs of our life.
Amen. As you look back at your experience and your walk with God, if you could compare your early years walking with God and your years now, what would you say is the difference, if there's any?
Wow, that's a big one now. My earlier years, I was kind of, both in my professional life and in my spiritual life, I was more kind of, what do you call it, gung-ho, meaning it's going to happen. I'm going to do it. Even if nobody else coming with me, it's going to happen. I recognize that as I get older now, it's like I am saying, yes, it's going to happen, but I am not going to be the one, out front there all the time. I kind of need some more supporters with me, so that is one kind of different. But my spiritual fervor, I don't think I have lost it. I still continue to persevere and to continue to move forward. And I continue to trust God as the wind beneath my wings. And so far, I want to tell you that I have had a supportive family. My siblings, they are still alive and they are very supported. My wife, my children, and now grandchildren in the picture. So I just want to thank God for what He has done. And I continue to move forward, trusting in His words.
There's a question that we have never asked anyone, but because of I know your involvement in the church and learning now of your growth from childhood up into the church, the question I'm going to ask you, your comparison between what it was then in the church and the church today, is there a difference? And how can our young people grow up to have the same passion and commitment you have?
That's a kind of difficult question because we are now in as a teacher, I have seen it, right? That's my profession. But things are different now. At that time, growing up, adults were everywhere. They were the authority. When they speak, that's it. I grew up in the day when spoiler, what? Don't spoil it, don't.
Spare not the rod.
Right, spare not the rod and spoil the child. So that kind of thing. But we are now that our young people, they have been exposed to a different kind of reality. The television was brought into their home from very early. So they were quite exposed to quite a wide spectrum of things. And before they could develop that, what we call moral authority or that spiritual grounding in their lives, that there were so many things taking away their affection, and so we have to deal with them in a kind of a different way. So the church, while I still love singing of the whole songs, this is my Father's world, Lord, in the morning thou shalt hear. I love the song. My children growing up at devotion, they were saying, Daddy, those were too slow. They want something faster. I have to adjust to that because I wanted them to love the Lord. So I had to adjust to their kind of music. In the days in the church, growing up, the music was kind of different. Each time, the hymnal was the book. Everybody has a hymnal, so to speak, and every time you sing, it was the hymnal. Now, it's a kind of different kind of situation. Sometimes you have these different popular choruses, and this is what they like. So the drums and all those things were not a part of the church then, but now they are in the church. I have now have to start adjusting to things like I don't know, I can't adjust to it yet, like liturgical dance and all those things. It has not yet come. I'm still in the kind of old school mode. I'm trying to justify how this can be accepted. But, so some things I just can't adjust to. But there are some changes. In the early days, I am Jamaican. I grew up in Jamaica. The layman, we didn't see our pastor until maybe once a quarter. And when he comes, his communion on baptism. So the layman, he was the one in charge of the church, and every layman wanted evangelistic ministry. In the church, there were a lot of ministry. A lot of persons were having Brand Sabbath school. Everybody wanted a little ministry. A layman wanted a little tent. Somebody was having I remember my father used to take me out with him on Sunday evening to have Bible study. He couldn't read, but he know where the scriptures are. So he'd ask me to find them and read them, or he would have his little layman acts. And so, but now I see a kind of dependence on the pastor. And, the pastor is and if the pastor is not a church, then, that kind of thing. So that's kind of cultural, or can I say a paradigm shift that is taking place in the church. And I am adjusting to that and trying to enjoy the new shift in what this is, because the church is dynamic and it's growing. And if we still remain in our, I would call it, fixed position in the old days, yeah, so to do that, I have to give up some of my traditional songs and sing some of the newer songs to make sure that we have the young people grounded. Also now, people were spending more time then in terms of understanding the faith. But now, one sermon and a little Bible study, people now come accepting Jesus Christ, and they understand Jesus Christ. But anybody I work with, Elder, I let them know that Adventism is a lifestyle change. When you become a Seventh-day Adventist, it affects how you work, your vocation that you choose. It affects your food that you eat, the clothes that you wear, the music that you listen to. All part of your life is affected, because when the Holy Spirit takes control of your life, there's some of these things that you used to enjoy, they are just going to fall away. So that's it, Elder. There is some difference, but we have to recognize the cultural shift that we are into, and we have to try to be accommodating. If you hold on to all some of these things still, you're going to be left in the past. That's my take.
Yes. It's becoming more and more common to meet people who say, I don't believe in a God. There's no use talking about a God. Where is God? Where is he? What would you say to somebody who finds themselves saying something like that to you?
Okay, I've had those experiences before. But I will always tell somebody that persons like those, it's very difficult to reason with them from the Bible because we don't have the common foundation. The Bible says in the beginning, God. So it's the assumption that all of us believe that there's a God. So those who don't believe that situation, I usually share my testimony, like what I shared with you earlier, that from where I'm coming from, I should not be where I am today, you know, but it is because of the working of God. And you may not be able to, you may not see him now, you may not understand now, but I recognize that I cannot use scripture. I have to use my life, what God has done for me. And then I use positive examples of other persons. I knew somebody who was a drunkard. Like on the weekend, he would be so drunk that literally the dogs would pee on him lying down the roadside. One day somebody was having a crusade, and this is not a story, this is something I know. And the person walked up to the altar, still staggering, to give his life to God. The entire tent actually break up laughing. But I live to see this brother become one of the foremost lay preacher in the area. And I think he's still one of the elders in his church. Who could have made that possible?
Amazing.
Not him.
Amazing.
And I have seen many people like that. I remember this other young person who all they could talk about is that I am going to die. I don't see any meaning in life. And then you somehow you encourage them and you start showing them love and positive examples. And we did not use any Bible or the kind of thing. You just show them positive examples, showing them love. When I'm going out, we would invite them to come, like that. And then after a while, they accepted the faith. And I think she has a master's degree now. Children growing up, married, so God is able to make changes in our lives, if we just learn to trust God.
It's becoming increasingly difficult to regain members who once walked with the Seventh-day Adventist faith. They've left the church following their own lust, some, others because someone was unkind to them in the faith. And they said to you, I have no interest anymore in church. The church is filled with hypocrites. Makes no sense. We're all going to the same place. What would you say to them?
I have also experienced those elders, and as what we call them, turn back Adventists are some of the hardest persons for us to get to. But I think Pastor Telemack has, I watched some videos with him, and he demonstrated some good principles. And one of the things he said in that video is that he went to the person and he apologized on behalf of the church for what has happened. And, and he encourages them, to take a fresh look. And so it's not a whole lot of Bible study that they need, because they know about the Bible. They just only need to regain their trust. And in doing that, if you can show positive example, direct their attention away from recognizing that in the church, we have all kind of people. In fact, I think it was Ellen White said that the church is an hospital for sinners. So we have all kinds of persons inside the church, but the model is Jesus. And when I as an elder, when I meet people like that, and I got calls like that sometimes, and I said, exactly as what Pastor Telemann said, apologize on behalf of the church. It's a good thing to do, and encourage them. There are some, show love to them, mingle with them, be interested in affairs of things that happen in their life. Elder people can't, we are made to be a community of people. So even this COVID experience where, your social distance and keeping, this is not natural to us. People love affection and a touch here and there, and that kind of thing help to kind of bind people together. So when they have a birthday, celebrate with them. When their children are graduating, show up and show appreciation too. When they have unfortunate situation in their family, show up. You have to show that the difference. You have to know, model what is good, and I guarantee you that after a while, people will start to understand, and they will start coming back to God. And something may be happening in their life, and they're just going to bounce right back, and they're going to remember the kindness. We must never forget that, to show that.
Okay, so every person, every Christian, even more importantly, has a text or several texts that keep them grounded when they are low, if they're having low points, when they're going through the various circumstances. There's always a text or two that they fall back on. Is there a favorite text for
yes.
you, Elder Dawkins?
There's a whole lot of them, but one of them, and it's still, I think, Psalms 119, I think verse 105, it said, thy word is a lamp unto my feet,
and a light unto my path.
And a light unto my path. And the other verse, wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way, but by taking heed thereto, according to his word. And I always remember it was Joseph, when he said, when he ran, you remember those favorite words that he uses?
Do this wickedness?
How can I do this wickedness and sin against God? I say, so when I'm faced with temptation and challenges, those are the things that always come back, comes right back to mind. How can I do this great wickedness? It's not sin against, I don't commit adultery because it is against my wife. It says, how can I do this great wickedness and sin against my God? Things like those are central, because what I do now is not me, not I, but Christ. And he is foremost in my heart. Yes, sometimes in the rush of things, sometimes you say some things that, as a teacher, sometimes it's rough in the classroom. Sometimes, some things get out of your mouth. But after that, things calm down. I will go to the student and say, you know what? I apologize for what I have done. And some people would say that, how could you do that? But I said, you know what? And I apologize. I should not have reacted in that kind of way. I must learn to So I recognize that before I go out in the morning, every time I say, God, I do not know what kind of circumstances I'm going to face out there. So I'm going to ask that you go before me and you take control of these situations. And
Probably better than a cool drink of water.
Yes.
Probably better than a
Yeah,
good sleep.
that's
It's a
right.
comforting song.
So,
What is your song?
okay, my song. Well, as I said that there are some old songs that I keep coming up. One of them, as you heard me say, this is my father's world. You know, I live in a country that's this is not my original home. I make it my
Yes.
home now. But you know, it's always comforting when you meet with challenges, immigration and everything. This is my father's world. You know, so you know, in everything that you have that. And there's another one I always love in terms of I have met so many people who are with many sickness, illnesses, and this one gives me comfort. The great physician now is near, the sympathizing Jesus. And it's given me great comfort because as an elder, I have to minister to a lot of persons who are going through those kind of situations. And sometimes I, I don't have words to express. And sometimes those hymns, this comes out some positive words that helps to keep you in courage. You know, so those are just like two of them that readily comes to mind that will come out. As I said, my wife is a singer and I'm not the singer. So my son will always say, Daddy, and like, oh, I'm at the mic most of the times, Daddy, don't sing at the mic. Yeah, so and I really listen to it sometimes when I'm playing them over. I say, oh my gosh, this, you
But the
know.
spirit keeps singing, man. The soul.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, the
That's
soul
right.
keeps
That's
singing.
right. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Finally, your parting words. Somebody's out there listening to us having this discussion and they're saying, but it may be easy for Elder Dawkins. He's been doing it all these years, but I don't feel I can make it. What would be your words to them?
Allah, I will say to them right now, not I, but Christ. Greater is he that is in me than is he that is in the world. What you see in here now is just the flesh. It is God who is supporting me. It's God who is sustaining me. I call upon him all the time for everything, every situation. I have mortgage to pay as well. I have all the challenges that comes your way. And I recognize that in doing this, I have to depend on God. And that's why, as I said, I spend a lot of time in meditation. I spend a lot of time in prayer because it is God who gives me the strength and the courage to hear somebody slaughter your name. And you know that you have the power to defend yourself and to hold your tongue in moments like those is some things that is not within you naturally. It's the power of God to do that. So I say to you this evening, if you're out there and you feel like God has not heard your prayers and you feel like giving up, I'm saying to you, take another look. I heard Rick Warren said this, and I'm going to close with it. He said that we are in the same storm, but not in the same boat. He said some of us are going through the storm in a pleasure craft, a yacht or so. Some of us are going through the storm in a outboard engine canoe. Some of us may go in just in a rowboat or a sailboat, while some of us may just be clinging on to driftwood. I consider myself sometimes going through the storm as clinging on to driftwood. But you know what, Elder? I'm holding on because I know
Amen.
that the God who I serve is able to hear, to answer my prayer. So I say to you, you feel like giving up? You grew up in the church and you feel like, you know, people done you wrong. I say, take another look. Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice for you. Not the person who's slandering you, not the deaconess at the door, not the elder, or even the pastor. It is Jesus, and you will account for your life. So I say, take another look at Jesus, and I'm sure he will see you through your storm. Even if you have to hold on to driftwood, I say, hold on through your storm. It will be over. But through every dark cloud, there's going to be a silver lining. God bless you. Continue to hold on. Never give up. Elder.
Well, Elder, it was a pleasure having you. What a powerful testimony tonight. I'm sure someone has been blessed. Pray that God will continue to bless you and your family. And if we never meet again on this side of earth, let us be committed to meeting in heaven. God bless you. God bless your family. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you very much, Elder. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure, given the opportunity to share. And I hope I really encourage somebody out there today. It's a rough time, but God will see you through.
I believe you have. Take care. God bless.